What's up guys, Corey here, and today we're reviewing Avengers Endgame. Finally, the chance to see what all of this MCU universe has been building to, the grand finale since, beginning with Iron Man and really setting the standard for what superhero movies could be. So with this, we're gonna really break it down, but we're also gonna be spoiler free, so this is gonna be a little bit less informational, and we'll have a spoiler talk afterwards. We'll do a separate video for that, but let's go ahead and jump into Avengers Endgame right here on Attack of the Review.
Seems like 1,000 years ago. I fought my way out of that cave, became Iron Man. Realized I loved you. I know I said no more surprises, but I was really hoping to pull off one last one.
The world has changed. None of us can go back. All we can do is our best. And sometimes the best that we can do is to start over.
Following the events of Infinity Wars, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and the remaining Avengers must hunt down Thanos and reverse his evil actions once and for good. The film was directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, and, well, the cast, it speaks for itself.
I keep telling everybody they should move on. Some do, but not us.
So going into this film, I obviously had pretty high hopes. All of the Avengers, all of Marvel's films are pretty well put together. They're always, just really great pieces in the universe that they've been building, and each character has its own quirk. And honestly, once Iron Man kind of set the bar for what superhero films should be, I think Marvel took that and ran with it. And it was a smart decision because up to then you had a lot of different takes on what superheroes could be. Specifically, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, I think, stands out for me as one of my favorites before the Iron Man era took over. But before that, you had Tim Burton's Batman, obviously Spider-Man, just a lot of good ones. Even the Dark Knight series was coming around, and it was really becoming a new age of what superheroes could do and how we see the films. But for Avengers and for Iron Man and Captain America and so many different characters that are, historically well known, and even Spider-Man, it's so many great characters that honestly have a little bit of a niche in our American history now. Our families grow up with them, we pass them down in generations, and it's kind of like our modern day folklore. So these have to hold up to that bar so that you can watch not only this film now, but in 10 years and still get the same effect. And Iron Man, for example, can give you that effect. I just watched it yesterday on FX, I believe, and it was still just as awesome as the first time. And something about Tony Stark and some of these characters where you get a lot of their development is exactly what makes you want to go to the theater and see it. So going into this film, I was not only expecting a lot, but I was really keeping myself at bay. I knew the basis of what was going to happen, and I think it's a pretty basic plot, underlying. But there's a lot that happens. There's a lot that goes on, and a lot of questions they answer that you can ask, but you don't have to. And that's kind of what made it, the 3-hour runtime, kind of more interesting than I think appealing, is that it had to have answered questions that you didn't always know you had to answer, ones that you didn't even know to ask, and that was really what was well presented here. And I will say with Endgame, I felt like, and hopefully this isn't a spoiler, but we were really truly passing the torch on to whatever this phase 2 of the MCU is going to be, because a lot of things have been, building for years, and there's even still things in this, universe. I'll throw out, like, at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Adam Warlock. We still haven't seen him, and I'm not sure if we will. Well, we will, sorry. I know he's been confirmed to show up at some point, but we just haven't seen him yet, and there's, they're not leaving him in this first phase. So there's a lot of cool things that I think they're planning that are going to carry on. But after seeing the film, just blew away all my expectations of what they could really accomplish here. I thought they would stick a little bit more to one or two things, but man, they go all out in subject matter. So you're not going to be bored. You're definitely going to have a good time if you like superhero films and you like science and you like, just a fun kind of break your own rules as you build them type of joyride. But it's not like, out there. There's definitely ways you can put it together to make it make sense, but that's the fun of humanity, is making rules and breaking them, right? So I think Avengers Endgame really put together not only what I was expecting to go into, they surpassed my expectations with flying colors. I kind of was hoping they would, so maybe that was also a little bit biased, but even then I think there was moments where I was truly just dumbfounded and blown away at this movie. So that was how I felt beforehand, and I don't know if another movie will be able to top that one, but hey, that's a good compliment, right? So I gotta give the acting a B for this, unfortunately. That's the only downfall to this movie, if there's any really, is that some of these characters, with the exception of Chris Evans, Captain America, and Tony Stark, some of these characters just seem a little hollow, they seem a little bland, or that their storylines just happen to make sense. And they don't really give too much depth into them. And I hope it's nothing that I think a lot of people are going to go in and be aggravated at. I think you still get a lot because there's so many good characters. There's just a lot that they've developed in these other films, and you can go back to Civil War, you can go back to the Captain America, the first film, you can go back to Thor's first film, even Iron Man's first film. There's a lot of stuff in those films that they build that you just feel like was part of their character as they're building it. And throughout the Avengers series, you do feel like they're starting to drop some of those. They're taking things a little bit more seriously, or it feels a little bit more scripted at times. But there's also characters that I think are getting there now. Hence a Paul Rudd, for example, Ant-Man. He is now in his, I think, fifth part of the installment, if everything, for the most part for his character, including his own standalone movies. But it's more that he's becoming a bigger part of the films, and he's becoming more part of the storyline, and he's actually adapting some importance compared to just a comedy aspect of having Paul Rudd play Ant-Man. And being able to shrink and get big, and kind of a kiddish, campy kind of superhero, but really he's becoming an Avenger now, and it's starting to feel those character moments are overtaking other ones. Other parts of it I won't give it away, but there's other characters that you feel like they might degress, and then at the same time that's kind of their motivation to have a characterization and get stronger and have a heroic moment later on, because similar to Infinity Wars, when Hulk kind of goes away into hiding, we finally get intelligent Hulk in this film, in the first 20 minutes, and it's a nice way of showing that he's still there. It's nothing that was lost in the other film. They were just transitioning him to give him a bigger role in this film and give him more importance, because they're going to take a little bit away from other ones, and there are some storylines that are wrapping up. There's some new ones that are going to develop, and they're making room for all that, and that can take away from some of the acting, because there's more to these characters, there's more to these heroes, but you're not always seeing it, you're not always getting it in dialogue, and going back, you'll notice it. I will say you will notice it from those first films to now, but it really doesn't take away from the epicness of the grand scheme of the entire film, and I think that's a major plus in your casting. When you still have great casting, no matter what the situation, no matter what the characters do, no matter how many times you have to write them, they have at least stuck, and they still have that passion for the character. So that at least is always going to succeed, and that's why I got to give it a B. For the cinematography, I got to give the cinematography an A+, because this is the absolute mecca of what modern day filmmaking is all about. The seamless CGI, the seamless just takes and movement of the camera. I mean, there's a lot of production budget that's going into films like this, especially because they know that that's what people are looking for. There's plenty of people nowadays that are just gearheads, and there's really nothing wrong with being a gearhead. It's just more something that everyone's got an aspect of things. Some people really enjoy the story writing, and there's not a lot that a pen and paper or a computer is not going to take away from your words. So there's not too much that you're going to change when it goes to different cameras, different type of production budgets, different type of jibs and rigs and cranes and everything that they're going to use. Steadicams, a lot of it's great. It's just a lot of it also comes down to how it's put together and how well it looks once it's all seamlessly integrated together into those scenes, those moments that need to take place, have timing, have rhythm, have feeling. And a lot of that has to do with not only the editing, the cinematography, but the direction, and it's just so many things that play together, but it all ties into how you see it. I feel like your overwhelming sense of visual art is just going to take over when you see this film, and you're going to feel like you are seeing something on a scale that hasn't been done before. Maybe the last time it was done this big was probably Avatar, but a film like this, honestly, you got to see it on the biggest screen, the best, clearest possible 10K resolution, whatever you can find. I don't know if they have 10K cameras yet or 10K screens, but everything you can possibly get to the highest level watching this film needs to be seen. And same thing with the audio, same thing with everything. It's just so well done that you get moments that not only make you say wow visually, but make you say wow emotionally. They make you say wow in just every context of the word. And that's exactly what you want in a film like this. With this kind of a film, the cinematography not only has to go over and above, but it's really going to showcase everything that you wanted to showcase in this film, because these are the world scale, superheroes that we're talking about. So you need to have world scale visuals, and that's what this film accomplishes. And for that reason, I gotta give it an A+, because it was one of the most visually breathtaking films I've seen. Like I said, maybe the last film I saw this good was Blade Runner 2049. Man, this was really good. So A+ cinematography for Avengers Endgame. Well, overall, I've got to give this one of the rare occasions of it being 5 out of 5 stars, because Avengers Endgame was everything I wanted it to be. I laughed, I cried, I saw things, and they were magnificent. They were great. They were everything I've ever wanted in a film. And let me tell you that a film like this doesn't come around too often. I mean, there's a lot of Marvel films, but for example, this compared to Captain Marvel itself was above and beyond scale in every way. And I think those other films are great. They're kind of fun. They're kind of like Star Wars, and they have those in-between films now, and they're good. They're good films. It's just more that the scale of this is just bigger. It's always going to be bigger. There's more. Every time you add another character, someone else is going to come to the theater at that point. Someone else is going to see it and share it, and it becomes bigger than you can imagine at that point. So every time these films are going to get bigger, they're just going to do that. They're going to get more and more people in the seats, more and more people in the theaters. But for a film like this, you're not sacrificing any of it for any kind of, cheesy sellout publicity. It's all 100% authentic Marvel superhero Avengers, and you're getting all of it right in your face, just action-packed, bow, 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 boom. Yeah, so it's just awesome. It's exactly what you want in that kind of a film. So for Avengers Endgame, 5 out of 5 stars, and let me tell you, this is one you gotta buy. This is a film you probably, if you like Avengers and you like superhero films, buy Infinity War, buy this one. It's like a 2-part film, and it's just one of those ones that needs to be on your DVD shelf, So Avengers Endgame in theaters now. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's definitely worth probably 3 trips to the theater. Well guys, that's all the time we have for this spoiler-free review of Avengers Endgame. Let us know what you thought about the film down here in the comments. As always, hit subscribe over here and stay tuned for that spoiler talk next week. And we'll see you next time on Midnight Media TV.